All right, good afternoon, good afternoon. Thank you for joining our session, Diversification of Energy Sources. I know there are a few sessions to choose from, including one with nearly the exact same name, so appreciated you coming here. You made the right choice. My name is Grayson Clapp. I'm an energy specialist with the Emerging Areas team, and I'll be the moderator for the session. So for a bit of housekeeping, we'll have each speaker come up and present individually. Then we'll do a moderated panel discussion, and then we'll have the Q&A. For those of you using the Whova app, this is session 1.2. We strongly encourage you to submit your questions, and we can cover those at the end. So we have 4 speakers today who are working at the forefront of energy diversification. We heard from SD Priyantha this afternoon and this morning that diversification is no longer optional, it's foundational. And here we're going to try to show you that it's not just a different path to the traditional renewable build-out, it's complementary infrastructure that makes renewables more secure and more economically productive. And the first 2 presentations will look beyond the grid to sources that can solve multiple development challenges simultaneously. We'll have Janitha Ekanayaka from Aiken Spence present how waste streams can be converted into baseload power through Sri Lanka's 10 megawatt waste to energy power plant. It's generated over 1.1 million tons of municipal waste and has 369 million kilowatt hours of power produced since 2020. Next, we'll have Chen Min He from Zhejiang University of Technology discuss their findings on green hydrogen as a whole in the People's Republic of China and globally. We'll show a comparison from here of potential supply and demand and emphasizing hydrogen as a valuable resource for hard-to-abate sectors like steel, concrete making, and ammonia. Both these presentations will give light to the idea that energy diversification extends beyond the power sector into industrial transformation and resilience. The session's final 2 presentations have a little bit of a different tone, but still within the realm of diversification, really focusing on the storage backbone that underpins security in high renewable systems. Somesh Shah from AFRI will draw on his 5 gigawatts of field advisor experience to show the technical realities of solar and BESS in Asia, including how the tropical climate can affect tropical O&M costs and how this isn't always traditionally integrated into some of these considerations. Then we'll extend this to floating PV and talking about unlocking generation capacity. And lastly, bring it home, we have Marcos Pujol from Lombardi Engineering talking about long duration storage in the form of pumped hydro as a 100-year asset and presenting the life cycle comparison of pumped hydro and battery energy storage, both the complementarities and where there may be specializations. So with that in mind, please give a warm welcome to our first speaker, Janitha.
Good afternoon, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I am Janitha Ekanayaka, representing Aiken Spence PLC, a well-diversified conglomerate in Sri Lanka. Today, I will be sharing Sri Lanka's experience in developing and operating the country's first waste-to-energy power plant. This project demonstrates how municipal waste can be transformed into an reliable source of renewable energy. It's a practical example of energy diversification, circular economy, and sustainable urban development. So let's move on. Sri Lanka is a resilient, developing nation, gifted with abundant natural resources, including fertile soils. However, safe disposal of municipal solid waste had been a burning issue for several decades. Like many developing countries in Asia, Sri Lanka faces rapid urbanization and increase in waste generation. With a population of around 22 million and limited land resources, traditional landfilling is no more viable. Fertile land is needed for agriculture, housing, and other economic development activities. The challenge is therefore not only waste management, but also land preservation and environmental protection. So waste to energy converts a challenge into an opportunity. Waste to energy creates cleaner cities, reduces pollution of land and water resources. It provides reliable local energy while recovering valuable materials. Importantly, it needs to be emphasized that waste to energy complements recycling but not competing with recycling. Since 100% recycling is rarely achievable, waste to energy provides a sustainable solution for non-recyclable waste. It supports both energy diversification and circular economy objectives. So let us see what is waste to energy. Waste to energy is part of an integrated waste management solution. Waste to energy includes several technologies that recover energy from waste. This includes simple biogas production at domestic level, then methane capturing from landfills, and also utility scale thermal treatment. So our project, Colombo Waste to Energy Plant, uses controlled thermal treatment to recover electricity from waste. Waste to energy should be viewed as one component within an integrated waste management hierarchy. So this is our solution to Colombo. Previously, a couple of years ago, that was the situation. You can see from the left side of the screen, we had huge waste mountains. In 2017, one of those mountains collapsed, of course, killing several dozens of people. Then this was the situation in waterways, totally polluted. And people were suffering with lack of electricity. Then in 2018, we started constructing our project, Colombo Waste to Energy Power Plant. And in 2020, it was commissioned. And thereafter, this is the situation now. You can see Colombo, clean and illuminated city. Waterways are clear, the city is beautiful. So these are the key facts about Colombo Waste to Energy Power Plant. 8 Conspens PLC, through its subsidiary Western Power Company Private Limited, developed, financed, constructed, and now owns and operates the plant. The plant size, the net capacity is 10 megawatt. The waste processing capacity is 700 tons per day. Location is not far away from Colombo. It's just 10 kilometers north of Colombo city. Investment is around $80 million by 8 Conspens PLC. Commencement date, December 2020. And it should be highlighted the fact that now the plant is entirely operated and maintained by local staff, local engineers, technicians. This is another achievement, the knowledge transfer. The key agreements that we have with the government are power purchase agreement with the tenure of 20 years, and again, waste supply agreement with Colombo Municipal Council, again for 20 years tenure. So I will briefly explain this process. I would like to invite you all to have a look at this video, YouTube video. The link is given. It will give, deeper insights to the process and the project. So we start with the left-hand corner. We have the waste pit. Initially, the waste is delivered to the waste pit by the municipalities. Then waste is kept there for about 4 days. That is basically to allow leachate, the kind of liquid to get drained and to allow organic waste to ferment. So thereafter waste is fed into the feed-in hopper and on top of the moving grade. Initially waste is ignited using diesel. Once the temperature reaches about 450 degrees Celsius, we don't need diesel anymore. The energy content, the calorific value of waste alone is sufficient to sustain the flame. Once it reaches the kind of rated load, the operating temperature will be in the range of 850 degrees Celsius. That heat is then transferred to water. Water gets evaporated and converted into high pressure, high temperature steam. That propels the steam turbine generator. That's how we produce electricity from waste. Apart from that main process, we have state-of-the-art flue gas treatment system as well, where flue gas will be treated in 3 stages. The first stage, acidic gases are removed using a lime slurry, and then activated carbon is injected to absorb heavy metal, traces of heavy metal. Then in the final stage, we have bag filters to filter out all the dust particles. And we are left with 2 types of residues. So that is being used in the construction industry as a sustainable construction material. So these are some photos from the plant. You can see here left the top photo, the waste pit. You can see how much of residual waste is accumulated there in the waste pit. And then this is our weighbridge. It is fully automated. And the next photo, we have the incinerators and boilers. Then below that, we have the flue gas treatment system. This is the central control room, and the lower one, there right, is steam turbine generator. These are some supporting auxiliary systems, which are very common in other power plants as well. Electrical switchgear, the step-up transformers. Additionally, unlike in other plants, we have a leachate treatment plant as well here to treat leachate collected from the waste. It is recycled and used as cooling water in the plant. Nothing is disposed to the environment. One more thing, waste does not end with energy. Through in-house R&D, we are turning byproducts into economic value. These are some products we have developed in-house, which can be used in paving the paths. Also, we are planning to recover metals. So it will be a kind of urban mining process where we can have additional resources collected from the waste. So if you looked at the impact that we have created so far on the society and environment, these are the data as of last financial year. So we have processed more than 1.1 million tons of municipal solid waste. Unless for this plant, this could have been again accumulated in another waste mountain, probably killing few more dozens of people. So then the energy generated is around 370 million units. Avoided amount of greenhouse gases is around 800,000 tons CO2 equivalent. And the ash repurposed in the construction industry is around 130,000 tons. And most importantly, now we have a talented, skilled staff, around 90 people, who are capable of waste-to-energy plant construction, developing, and operation. So the Sri Lankan example is a scalable model. Waste-to-energy, public-private partnerships transform waste liabilities into clean energy assets, diversifying energy mix, enhancing energy security, and enabling circular economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Janitha. It's amazing hearing about such a closed loop process where it seems like every part of the process has been thought through, and the recycling and reuse can create all these byproducts that will be economically viable down the line. Next, I have the pleasure to introduce Chen Min-hee, who will be talking about hydrogen. And yeah, please give her a round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chen Min-hee. I'm from Zhejiang University of Technology. And also, I'm a member for a national integrated assessment model called IPAC, together with Zhang Jun, who's also here today, and also with other colleagues for a very long time. And within this presentation today, we also have some findings from from a global model team called Image from PBL Netherlands. I will just give this presentation from both the global and the national level to see if we can move faster for the hydrogen leading future to build a beautiful world with zero carbon industry. I will start with these figures. On the top of left, showing the global average temperature that 2024 was the warmest year on record actually, and it is new to say that 2025 was the warmest year on record. That means that we are experiencing every year as the warmest year recently. If we look at this together with the IPCC report showing the CO2 emission pathways, we find that blue spot is upper than the predicted pathways for the CO2 emissions pathways we have in the IPCC report. That means the fast and immediately actions we needed to take from now on. And we found the hydrogen can be a quite important energy carrier, and to look into the hydrogen supply and the demand from this in here from the ARENA's report, we found it is find that the global supply potential exists and the global demand by several factors. Actually, it's about 25 to 65 times of that. And by the global modeling findings, we find marked as dark purple here, the hydrogen, there will be a considerable increase in hydrogen in the climate mitigation scenarios for both area and also the global. And if we look into the hydrogen demand in different end-use sectors, the energy demand will move from some traditional use to new applications, especially in industry and transport. Sorry, there should be another slide missed here showing the trends, global trends between different areas and countries, showing that the key role for China in this global hydrogen trend, as China will be the biggest consumer and also the biggest producer for the hydrogen. in the future by 2050. And then we go into the details in China. These are the findings and the results from IPAC, which is the national model, showing the primary energy demand results by 2050 and also the power generation results. And if we look into the structure of this, we'll find that 75% of primary energy will be come from the zero carbon energy types from the left side figure. And if we go into the power generation, we'll find that by 2050, 90% of, yeah, that is the one. Okay. 90% of the power generation for China will come from the zero carbon technologies, such as solar and wind and also nuclear. And together with the energy storage technologies, such as gravity and chemical battery electricity storage technologies, which are happening and developing fast now in China, that makes the green hydrogen first development possible in China. This is also the results from our carbon neutrality target scenario, showing the green hydrogen demand would increase sharply and shortly around and before 2030. And together with this green hydrogen development, the hydrogen-based process for industry sector and also transport sector would happen significantly. For example, the steel making and also ammonia and also some sectors for the transport. This is the framework for the steelmaking transformation from the traditional routine of blast furnace to the direct reduction arrow making process, for example. And this shows a result of for the Europe area, showing that once the electricity price which is lower than 2.2 euro cent per kilowatt hour, then the DRI process would become costly and competitive. And this, the green hydrogen demand, the green hydrogen development will also make the industry sector transformation. The hydrogen-based industry can achieve distributed industry production. For example, take the ammonia production, for example, the large scale, which at the size of around 1 million tons capacity, it can be achieved to a small scale ammonium production, which at the size of 50 to 100,000 tons in the future. And also the new application of green hydrogen in transport sectors like airplane. And this is the picture taken for the hydrogen bicycle. We also did a provincial level study, look at the potential of hydrogen production in different provinces that have the solar power generation price lower than around 2 US cents per kilowatt hour, showing that in China, within these provinces, the hydrogen output could be more 200 million tons. And also we look into the relocation of the hydrogen production in China. From the left side one shows the hydrogen production in provinces in China in year 2080, and that will move from mostly at the east side to west and north side in right figure showing that in year 2050. That's because of the faster move of the solar PV and wind with very low cost, with very low price. This figure shows the annual newly installed PV capacity in China. We see that from the 10 years, from 2010 to 2019, that the total newly installed PV capacity is around 200 gigawatt, and for the 3 years from 2020 and 2022, that's around 200 gigawatt. But after 2023, every year 200 gigawatt, and in last year more than 300 gigawatt. But if we look at that in a global picture, that we find actually with the excellent solar rays, maybe we think the North Africa and the Middle East area would be the center of the world in the near future. And this is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chinmen. I think that just highlights a great point, which is diversification doesn't necessarily just mean moving beyond and expanding out. It can also mean efficiency. And I think in the steel production slide you had, it really makes it clear that diversification can actually bring efficiency to industries that we're not even thinking about. Next, we have Somesh, who will be presenting on floating PV and battery storage. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. It's a great honor for me, actually, to be part of this hall, to be part with important guests and delegates here. Thank you for moderating the session for us. I would try my best to put up some perspectives from the technical advisor's role, or as an owner's engineer role for solar and battery projects and floating PV projects in the region. We had very good presentations from Sri Lanka. We had good presentation from China, which gave a good perspective how these countries are doing so well in diversifying their energy commitments. So I think that's very well suited to the thematic track in which we are all present here. To begin with, just to put some figures into your brain, is that Asia Pacific has installed about 500 gigawatt of solar PV projects alone in 2025. So that's incredible. That gives an image of how fast and how much capacity we are doing very well as a global community. But to be honest, as an advisor, as a technical advisor, I think we need to see how ambition is okay to have, but there is always a challenge with the execution. So with my experience of about 18 years in the industry, right from the beginning of my career, I've been into the solar sector. I've seen how the things have changed, so I would try my best to share those experiences with you. Before I begin, just a few words about the company, about the organization I represent. So AFRI is a global engineering and technical advisory company. We work together with about 18,000 professionals around the world. We are present in 50 countries, and we have our global project footprint in more than 100 countries. We are about 2.8 billion USD net revenue, and we operate in 3 divisions: energy sector, industry sector, and transport and places. In energy sector, we have been ranked under top 10 for solar, wind, and hydro by ENR. Here you can see our global footprint. So it shows our office footprint as well as our project footprint. And in Southeast Asia, in Asia Pacific to say, we are more than 500 plus professionals working in more than 200 ongoing assignments at the moment. And in these locations, we have our local offices. So coming back to the context. So about 70% of Asia Pacific oil and gas gets imported. About 400 million plus. To correct this figure, I've seen today's plenary session in which the ADB officials have given the right figure. It's about 350 plus million people who still lack a reliable power source or energy access. And the regional growth is slowing to about 4% at the moment. What it indicates? It indicates that there is a geopolitical instability. There is a disruption in the fossil fuel supply, and also there is a huge reduction in the BESS cost, which actually converging the deployment of solar and BESS projects, hybrid projects in the region very well adapted. So clean energy is no longer just a climate choice. It is basically a national security imperative. And the country head of Hitachi this morning, he mentioned that energy security cannot work without energy economics. So we'll come to that in my coming slides. To give more perspective on the figures and facts, which I've collected, I did some homework for this important presentation. So about 647 gigawatt of global solar has been added, which is another year of record. About 480 gigawatt of solar added only in APAC. More than 61% rise in BESS installation globally, and APAC, which is projected to become the leader in BESS installation, will have about 70% of overall BESS installation by 2026 or by mid of 2027. So what it indicates? So it indicates that APAC is going to lead, certainly, but we must understand that these figures and ambitions are good to know and have good motivation, but we must understand that they only cannot build a good project which performs well. So when I talk about ambition and execution, which are not the same thing, I talk about from a lender's technical advisory perspective and owner's engineer, which goes in the ground and reviews the project. So on the left-hand side, you see green color box, which tells the promises which have been made during the feasibility stage of a project. We see optimistic EYAs. EYA is energy yield assessment. We see there are standard best performance guarantees, bankable warranties on capacity, efficiency, and cycle life. We see the technical data sheet, it all looks good. We see the benchmarked CAPEX and OPEX. We observe there is clear grid integration during the feasibility stage. And also we see there are adopted degradation rates. But in reality, when the project gets executed or operated, especially in the tropical atmosphere, we see there are yield losses. There are more stringent requirements on the contractual obligations. There are higher O&M costs because the benchmarking might have taken a different region perspective. And there are grid curtailments, which comes as a surprise, and sometimes these models don't take that into the consideration. And then, due to the tropical atmosphere, we have higher degradation values as well. So the gap between these two blocks is not basically a project risk. So it tells about a systematic industry problem, which we should be able to acknowledge. I would a little bit go deeper into the observations which we have made as a team throughout the experience we have on these projects. The first observation is on the energy yield in the tropical environment in Asia. Soiling in dust, whenever we model those projects, we take about 1 to 2% with some frequency of cleaning the modules, but it can go up to 3x in the field. Then humidity and degradation on the modules, about 0.5% as for the manufacturer's technical data sheet, but in the field it can go 0.6x higher, up to 1.8 also in some of the projects. Grid curtailment, many of the models underestimate this figure, but we all have seen there has been tremendous curtailment in 2023 in Vietnam, about 500 megawatt hour, which was about 20% in the peak time. So yeah, up to 10x higher the grid curtailment can go. And temperature, inverters amounts to maximum fault in the solar projects. So in the model, we keep about 1 or 2%, but at the peak operating periods, it can go and touch up to 8x of these figures. The insight which I would like to give from these slides is basically the yield in tropical markets are frequently underestimated. The models underestimate the actual operating conditions. So that during the design stage, during the feasibility stage, these things should be taken care. Then the second observation is on the BESS integration. So basically, I have listed down 3 key components for the challenges basically, which comes under the BESS integration observation template. So there are issues related to performance guarantees. So what happens is in the BESS side, the performance guarantees are mostly on the DC side, but when the power gets out, it goes with the efficiency, cycle life, degradation, and the overall performance guarantee gets impacted. Then there are contractual risks, the gaps. Basically, what happens that an EPC contractor is building a solar project and another EPC contractor is building a BESS project. And if there are no proper linkages between these two contractors, then there will be a question that who will perform during the integration of these projects. Then one of the most important aspect is basically thermal and safety management. Because in the humid tropical environments, what happens is capacity fade of battery systems get accelerated for every 10-degree rise. So if it is a 50-degree rise, then you can imagine there could be more degradation of these. Moving on to the third observation is basically O&M, which is the most underestimated of all the observations, because what happens is we construct the project, we get the loan, everything is done. But then if we do not consider proper operation and maintenance methodologies and approach, then the project suffers for the whole 20-25 years, and your DSCR or your overall revenue gets impacted. So I have listed down the aspects, the factors into ranking. So climate intensity is number one, which is basically irreversible. If you don't consider, if you don't model these factors into your system, then before the financial close, then I think nobody can save the project. Wrong benchmarks. If you have considered benchmarks in your financial model from other region, then I think it's time to accept your fault, because in tropical atmosphere, the benchmarks should be from the same region where the project is getting installed. Then for the best specialist skills, so basically the region is still evolving, the resource are still getting the knowledge for best installations, commissioning activities. So if we need to consider that at the moment there is lack of specialist knowledge in the BESS, but yeah, as we are moving towards more installation, it's getting better. And also the issues with the remote site logistics. And in this part of my presentation, I have just 3 more slides for this. We will talk about whatever I talked about, the ground-mounted solar and battery storage projects. We'll talk about the same thing on water for the floating PV projects. So what are basically floating PV projects? Some quick technology aspects and some key constraints. You see a very nice picture. I basically made it through AI because there is no floating PV project having a BESS unit at the moment. But that's what I want to pitch in, because floating PV and battery projects makes a lot of sense for our Asian environment. So on the right-hand side, you can see there are few key technical and commercial aspects. Floating structural engineering is very important. We have to consider wind, waves, and water level fluctuations. Corrosion and material durability needs to be considered. Important is to identify the specific location for BESS, because whether it is onshore or offshore, we need to carefully select. And also during the O&M, because it's in the water, so you need to define your logistics well. And the challenge or the key aspect on the commercial side is basically the bankability. The lenders and the insuring companies, they don't have much data on a floating PV plus BESS hybrid projects, because it's not yet commercially happened. It's in conceptualization stage. So despite of all these, why I say floating PV makes a lot of sense with battery and hybrid systems. So we already have 5 gigawatt plus of floating PV projects, and APAC leads about 70% of it. BESS is already growing, we have seen in the previous slides, and there is already a financing mechanism for floating PV projects. So what challenges floating solar PV project solves is basically land. There is an advantage of the yield. There is also policy momentum in the countries, in the region, And also there is multilateral financing already flowing in these countries with the help of ADB and IFC and World Bank. So what must happen basically to improve the situation, to adapt or to get these projects installed? It's important to first understand that before going to the gigawatt level scale, we must consider three key aspects. Number one is to build the technical standards first. So basically, there is no bankable international standard available for FPV and BESS hybrid projects at the moment. So first, we have to build that. Second, we have to have a more advanced financing frameworks where we have separate checklists for due diligences, where we have more data, actuarial data for the insurance companies, and with the help of multilateral agencies, we can de-risk easily on the financing options. Not easily, but yeah, it can be. And then foremost important is to apply our lessons from the ground mounted projects honestly, because humidity and corrosion activities in the ground mounted projects can give some idea how it will affect the floating PV projects with BESS. So these three things are divided among these sector stakeholders. The first one is for the industry and standard bodies. The second one is for the lenders and multilateral banks. And the third one is owned by developers and project teams. So with all, I would like to end my slide saying that Asia Pacific has the water bodies, the reservoirs. There is a positive policy intention and financing appetite, but what it needs to do is basically a technical and regulatory rigor, which matches the ambition on the ground and on the water. Thank you.
Thank you, Somesh. A few quick thoughts on that. I think first off, that aligns incredibly well with what we heard from Isabel Chatterton this morning on really trying to have not only CapEx, but also the O&M OpEx rooted in reality. And as a shameless plug-in for the emerging areas team, we are looking into floating PV in the Philippines and elsewhere and working on the feasibility studies. And I think just a last point, in a past life, I was working on the Global Solar Atlas, and we tried to validate, it's essentially 20 satellite layers with ground measurement stations. And normally it's about a 5% difference. That was a threshold for that. And we found in most tropical areas, it was actually higher than 10. And trying to get that accurately was incredibly difficult and maintains, it continues to be incredibly difficult, I would say. So thank you for validating all those. And last but not least, I'd love to introduce Marcos Pujol, who will be talking about pumped hydro, battery energy storage, and the compatibility between the two. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marcos Pujol. I'm a mechanical engineer from Lombardi Engineering. We are a consultancy of Swiss consultancy, and we opened a branch in Australia, following one of the biggest projects of pumped hydro we are building. Today, we will be presenting a comparative assessment of pumped hydro and BESS. I'm presenting on behalf of colleagues that couldn't come, so I will do my best to present. Yeah. I will go really quick to this slide. It's 6 items. We'll do a really technology overview of the pumped hydro and BESS. After that, a comparison. We will propose to think about how we combine those ones, and we'll talk about some global trends. Okay, 2 technologies, 2 different roles. We have for one side we have a pump storage. It's a structural, well-known, long-duration effects factor asset, and it gives us spinning inertia and a multi-decade horizon. So we are talking about 100 years life cycle or more. Actually, this Snowy 2.0 project in Australia, it has been designed for 150 years. So we are pushing beyond the limits on that. On the other hand, we have another technology. This about also storage, is battery energy storage systems. So this is a modular technology. It has a very fast response compared to the pump hydro, and it uses regulations and grid surge, so it can act really, really quick and has a really rapid deployment. So we are going to think about this technology not as competitors, but in terms of complementary. As you said, with the floating and the BESS, here will be pump storage and BESS. So when we talk about storage, we have to think about time scale. So here in the left side, we can see the graph of the US utility scale electricity capacity. The only thing that you have to bear in mind here that most of the power capacity storage is pump storage, and a little bit less than 10% it's battery. So this will start changing in the future. We'll see later. But this has to be think in as I said of time scale and what the system challenges or issue we have. So I made a table trying to understand in which time scale do we have to focus and how do we solve nowadays that problem. So we are talking about the surges or instabilities of less than a second. We need a dynamic stability and frequency control, and the relevant services would be the inertia that give us that the cushion, and voltage and primary secondary frequency response. If we talk about minutes and hours, the issue will be really time and dead ahead balancing. And how do we solve, or what do we have in our side is balancing the market and intraday energy shiftings. Also, if we're talking about hours and days or month and years, is more or less in hours and days we are talking about a longer variable renewable energy. There, with the pump storage come and help us a little bit more. On month and years, we're talking about seasonal inter-annual variability. That's the issue, and we can control it combining the hydrothermal and system planning. So it's just for a conclusion of this slide, storage and investment decisions should be considered duration, capacity, response, speed, life cycle, and cost. This is important. Life cycle and cost, we'll tackle it in the next slides. So what is a pump storage? Really quick, I will do it. Pump storage, we need two reservoirs at different elevations. We're going to do in low demand hours. We're gonna buy energy and pump the water up to the upper reservoir. We're gonna accumulate it there. So that's the storage we have. So that's the battery we have. And when we have high demands and electricity hours, we're gonna turbinate, or we're gonna generate water with the same machine. That it's a reversible pump turbine, and we're gonna sell and inject this energy to the grid. So these kind of systems are really well known. It's typical projects are more than a couple of hundred megawatts. The duration, let's see the cycles, it's daily, so it can be 8 or 10 hours up to 24 hours. For starting this pump or turbine, depends. It will take seconds or minutes. It depends on the inertia of the system. And the big thing that this gives us is the inertia rotating spin. and voltage regulation and black start capability. These are the main things. So an overall efficiency of 85%. This is combining turbine and pump. So just some strength and limitation of this system. It's a very long asset life. We are talking about 100 years. Now, Snowy 2.0 has proven 150 years. So we are designing that for that life cycle. Large scale, long duration, no storage degradation. This will be compared with the batteries. And the OPEX is really, really low. It's 2%, 1.5% of the CAPEX per year. And gives a really stable storage system. Some limitations, high upfront capital cost. This is one of the main limitations. The other thing is that we need geography and water availability and geological conditions to build these projects. So it's kind of risky sometimes. So we need also long development periods and permitting. And the other issue sometimes is more towards the environmental approval. But yeah, and one thing that there are big capacities, so you need big grids or transmission lines. So also in that case, I found it as a limitation. So BESS, just an overview of the BESS. This is more, the rack or the container where the batteries are. But this BESS technology is electromechanical storage that converts electrical energy to chemical energy, back and forth. It's a battery with an inverter, so it goes back and forth depending on what do we have to charge the batteries or to dispatch energy. Commercially, we can apply this and it can give us energy for 1 or 4 hours. It can be more, but it becomes really, really expensive. It's a good thing that it's modular deployment, so it's really easy to multiply. And one thing that it's a cons, it's battery degradation. So depending on the cycles, the battery starts degrading, so we're losing capacity of storage in time. So some strengths. I will focus really. I'm running out of time, so it has a millisecond response, so it's really quick. Just power on, power off, and it goes right away to the grid. This is really important. Modular and scalable, as I said. It's really short development and deployment, so it's really quick. They were talking about today about less than a year, 6 months, and you have everything done. It's not that a hydropower project. It takes lots of years. Some limitations, as I say, 4 hours of energy supply to the grid. Degradation is typically 10 to 20 years, so we have to considering that. Also the fire risk and some supply chains constraints. Okay, here's the summary of the comparison. So we have hundreds of megawatts to no more than 400 megas up to the megawatts of capacity. The duration is 2 hours versus 4 hours. So and then the lifetime, I will focus on that. The lifetime is 100 years versus 20 years. Okay. So just a brief understanding of when I talk about lifetime and talk about cost and talk about upfront capex, we need to understand that we are thinking about a project that is 100 years. The pump storage can give us that with a proper OEM activities, but the batteries, because of the degradation, I have to change it, let's say, 4 times at least. Okay, so even though if I see the upfront capex, it will be really high compared to the BESS, the pump storage, but at the end, it gives us, as you see in the center of the graph there, that the effective capex for the battery compared to the PS would be greater. So we had to try to compare when we analyze the projects in their whole lifetime cycle capex and not only the upfront capex. So the presentation also considered the best contribution with the pump storage contribution as a hybrid solution. So I was talking about that the pump storage has seconds to minutes reaction. So I had to start the turbine, or I have to start the turbine, or have to start the pump. It takes me more than a minute or 60 seconds, depends on the inertia. And on the other hand, I have a battery, so it will be a millisecond respond. So if I combine that, we can think of some of a kind of overall system benefit, where I will not start the pump storage system, and I will start the BESS. So at the end, I will improve the performance of the overall system. I will talk really quick, run out of time, about the global trends of the pump storage. For the ones where we are familiar, it's graphs that are really common in our industry. We have in the world, we have a pump hydro governs the capacity, energy capacity, storage, and 70%, and batteries around the 30%. And in the right-hand side of the slide, you can see how the growth of the battery compared to the pump storage. So here is a division in the world where the biggest players here in this league is United States, Europe, and China. You can see in the map really nucleated there, and in the graph in the left, you can see how Asia is in the last decade has grown a lot of all the storage capacity. So I'm actually based in Australia, so I focus this slide in Australia, just an overview of the pump storage in Australia. Two in yellow, some under construction projects. Snowy 2 in the south, it's a 2,000 megawatt project. It's the biggest one under construction right now, and Kisdom in South Queensland. The other ones are lots of projects that are under development and designed. So we have great opportunities in Australia also. From the BESS, really quick, batteries has a rapid deployment and cost decline. They have been growing the last decade a lot, as you see in the left-hand side. And in the right-hand side of the picture, you can see divided by countries, China leading, also United States. And also, if we're talking about Australia and the BESS project, there are lots of projects. They are combining. I haven't found any hybrid because it's more for a pilot investigation, but there are BESS and pump storage all over Australia. So just for showing that there are technologies that are well known and are being applied, and there is a big, good framework on this. Just for concluding, just saying that the presentation, the choice between pump, hydro, and BESS depends on the duration, install capacity, efficiency, degradation, design life, so and cost, capex. So we have to consider everything. We can not only consider the capex. BESS is highly effective and fast, so we can help pump storage, and pump storage is considered to be the backbone of the storage. So should be the strongest planning approach is to having a portfolio and try to combine these technologies. And just for conclusion is pump storage and BESS are complementary, not substitutes. That's all from my side. Sorry for the timing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. I think I want to lead off with some of the questions for you. I know we're going a little over for time, but I think this is a presentation and a series of presentations that highlight a picture is worth 1,000 words. And as funny as it may be to have someone describe pumped hydro or waste to energy, floating PV, or green hydrogen without the benefit of pictures, I think the PowerPoints have really done a fantastic job of not only introducing these technologies, but highlighting some of the specializations. So with that, I'd like to invite all of the speakers up for a moderated panel, and we'll begin shortly. Okay, testing, perfect. So to kick things off, I think this will be a double-barreled question, but I'd like to keep it under a minute if possible for responses. So for the technologies that you mentioned and introduced, where do you see it having the most impact, at what scale, and what does energy security look like for this technology? And if we can start with the order of speakers, so Janitha, we can start with you and then move on to Chedman.
Okay, Grayson. We all know that with the rapid urbanization, increased amount of waste generation is unavoidable. So in Sri Lanka, what we did was, this was identified as an alternative fuel. So this is converted to reliable baseload power. So thereby, we utilize locally available material to generate power. In terms of its greatest impact, is at the city and metropolitan scale, where waste generation and power demand are concentrated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the energy security, at current stage, most people look at the with the independence on fossil fuel imports. And I think with the large-scale development of green hydrogen, can help that by achieving a future without fossil fuel trade anymore. As mentioned in the title of my presentation, to build a total zero carbon beautiful world. And I also would like to say a little bit more, because I think green hydrogen can actually it's not only about the energy security, but also about the industry security as well. We take the information from the Minister of Cambodian this morning as an example, that he mentioned the 90% of fertilizers in Cambodians nowadays are imported from imported from other countries. And with the development of green hydrogen, as mentioned in the presentation, that small scale of ammonium and hydrogen-based ammonium can be possible. That means the fertilizers can be produced with a small scale in Cambodia itself. It's just a quite interesting example for this question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think just as a quick follow-up to that for both of these, it's really interesting to hear that you can have, I guess, electrolysis at a much smaller scale, and then with some of the potential supply you were talking about, which we're talking would essentially mitigate gigawatts of energy for these hard-to-abate sectors. And I think there's a strong parallel to that with what Janet had presented. And although we're talking about 10 megawatts, I think we also are looking at waste-to-energy plants that can also move up to the gigawatt scale. And both of these for potentially landlocked countries, for countries that would be able to operate within this closed feedback cycle. So I think that's really interesting. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Grayson. And I think the perspectives presented by Janita and Chinmay, they are simply, I think, spot on. But I would just like to add on the energy security side. I take it as basically a ARI framework. So A for affordability, R for reliability, and I for independence. So if we have ticked all three boxes, then we have a good energy security situation. But as I mentioned during my presentation, that what Anthony from Hitachi mentioned in the morning, that energy security cannot happen without energy economics. So yeah, keeping it for the perspective. Second question is related to at what scale the technology, solar and battery related hybrid systems would make an impact. So for me as technical advisor, if a hybrid system is able to perform and export a dispatchable power, then I think it's making an impact in the region because first is to reduce the usage of fossil fuels and usage of oil and using more of a clean energy. So I think any project scale, which usually go beyond 30 megawatt hour or something like that. So that makes a good impact.
Yeah. Yeah, from my understanding, this energy security topic is about having the right energy at the right time. So trying to be practical because it's hard for a technical guy understanding this. But if I return to my presentation and I think about pump storage having a response of 1 minute, let's say, if I can combine this first 0 to 60 seconds of response with another system, in this case BESS, is a complementary thing. And this will act as a cushion for surges of the grid. So at the end, it's helping energy security. This is my
No, I love how many engineers we have up here and all these technical answers. It's fantastic. So I think as a great follow-up to that, we're saying what's security and what does this look like for the bankability. I think I'm going to do a few more selected questions here, and starting with Chenmin. I know that when we're talking about hydrogen, people have talked about retrofitting existing infrastructure. People have talked about the scale needed for hydrogen fuel cell vehicles or retrofitting steel plants. And so I'm wondering, what are some of the low-hanging fruits here? What are some of the, I guess, easy grabs that you could see for hydrogen in the development, specifically in Asia and the Pacific?
Okay. First, based on our research findings, that we think in the coming 2 years, the green hydrogen-based industry will become costly, competitive. Yes, within the next 2 to 3 years, that will be. In the regions that, as I show the global solar resource pictures, in the regions that have superior PV sources, such as the Middle East Asia countries, and also some regions of China and also Mongolia, like this. And the second point is that it's also showed, but not only the hydrogen itself, but also the hydrogen-based industry will lead to a reallocation, spatial reallocation within China and with and also at the global level. because of the low solar electricity prices. And the third one is that the hydrogen-based industry will drive a transformation in the industry processes. All those technologies change from the traditional ones depend on the fossil fuel nowadays to the green hydrogen-based processes, just as shown in the presentations as well, for example, like the DRI in the steel making processes. And the fourth, I think the hydrogen-based industry will bring changes to the material production as well. And as the most of the products that we use now are the components of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So that means all those products can be produced with hydrogen and the hydrogen-based processes. And that means all the industry materials will change significantly based on the development of the development of hydrogen. Yeah.
The adoption would be fantastic in 2 to 3 years. You heard it here first. Okay, moving on. So, Janitha, I think when you're doing your presentation, you're presenting a lot about the byproducts. I was thinking about when I worked in biodiesel, actually, and how the financial viability of that came from both government subsidies, but also the sale of those byproducts to make up that marginal cost. And so I'm wondering, how is this financially viable, and what recommendations would you give for DMCs that the ADB is working with to have similar types of waste energy plants?
Okay, Grayson. Now, when it comes to waste to energy, first thing, it should be, we should evaluate the technical viability. It depends on the region, types of waste available infrastructure. So thereby, the first thing we should do is, we should select the most appropriate technology. So we should invest some time and resources there in selecting the perfect right technology. So not only the right technology, so there were several other enabling factors which enabled Colombo Waste Energy Project. Some of them are, so the government has had a strong commitment, especially after the disaster which happened in 2017, one of the waste mountain. So they were very keen on implementing a kind of sustainable, enduring solution for waste management. So that enhanced investors' confidence and their kind of interest in investing in a waste to energy project, especially that being the very first plant in the country. So it was quite risky, the investment. So then government commitment enhanced investors' confidence. Then having long-term contracts with the governments. The first one, power purchase agreement. So it assures the certainty of long-term revenue. So that, gave the confidence to the lenders. Then waste supply agreement. It is again a long-term agreement with the municipality. So which assured the long-term supply of waste, which is, of course, fuel in our case. Then the risk sharing, the public-private partnership. So the government entities assured, waste supply, long-term agreements, and other regulatory framework. So whereas the private parties, in case it conspires, so mobilize investment, we did the design, construction, and also the operation and maintenance. So that kind of risk sharing is very important. Then other thing, now we can get the project constructed, of course, through partnering with foreign parties as well. But in long-term sustainability, in-house talent development is the crucial. So now, after a couple of years, initially it was operated by the EPC contractor because we didn't have that experience previously. So thereafter, after about 2 years, the entire operation was taken over by Sri Lankan local staff. So that talent development and knowledge transfer is another crucial factor in sustaining these type of plants in long term. Thank you.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And really, it sounds like for emergency begets change, the adaptation, and then it sounds like the knowledge transfer and building over those years really having a, I mean, we saw the impact from the before and after of some of the pictures you showed in your slides. So I think the bankability part that you mentioned transitions well to the next question for Somesh. I mean, you highlighted a number of different things that it would be helpful for developers and for lenders to really consider and integrate into their considerations for solar and BESS and beyond that. And so where do you see some of those impactful changes taking place, and how can we as the ADB and potentially other IFIs really integrate that?
Yeah. So to answer this question, I'd like to mention an analogy of how parents nurture their children, the kids. So basically, if a parent wants to assess the performance of a project, performance of their child, you take it as a project, take that child as a project. So then you invest a lot of time, you invest a lot of resources to grow, to help him grow, help her grow. So I think that's very much important in the case of any project as well, any hybrid system as well, because hybrid systems are evolving. They are not very much installed or commercially, commercially put down on the grounds everywhere, but they are evolving, they are getting installed like solar and battery systems. So I think it's important that there should be proper technical standards in place. There should be financing mechanism, and there should be honest realization of how ground-mounted projects and solar projects were built and what were the learnings from those projects. So I think these three things are very much important for making an impact, getting these type of projects to grow more in the region. And at the end, I think what will really help is if there is some mechanism in the loan, in the financing part of the projects where those projects can be monitored and their performance can be monitored for throughout the life cycle. So I think if the loan is linked until the time, until the whole life cycle of the project, I think in very few years, we will get a lot of data, and those data can be published in public domain, and the developers and the technical advisors and lenders and insuring companies, they will get the access of those data, and they will be able to make necessary updates in their mechanism, in their approach. So I think these things will help a good impact, will help impact the rise of these projects in the region.
Thank you for that. And if there's any ADB colleagues currently working on PV in the region, please put in the public domain your findings. It'll be beneficial for all of us. So Marcos, I think what we've heard, and I mentioned this a little earlier, that we're constantly talking about how are we assessing these CapEx and OpEx costs. I think we're seeing that, for BESS, you can get a 5 kilowatt system now for, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then we were talking pumped hydro for a much larger scale, millions of dollars. And so what changes do you think would be helpful to make that we can really realistically look at what a 150-year asset looks like, which would be significant?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, the change. Let's say when we look to a project, I think we should be focused on the scope and also considering the life cycle. If we only take for the comparison the capex, at least in these two technologies, we are lost. We need to change the focus. We need to do the right calculations in all the years. Some in capex, some in opex, some in opex. Let's say pump storage. We know it's more expensive in upfront capex, but it gives us now with the snowy 150 years. So we have to do a recent and a decent comparison with the best in 150 years, and what are we gonna get to that point, and what can also contribute in a multi-purpose project for the population, not only for the grid, because as we know also, pump storage has related lakes and other environmental things that can sum to that equation. So for me, only concentrating in capex, I think we'll end with wrong decisions. It's not that pump storage will win. It's just we have to match scope, we have to match life cycle, and the money we have to invest.
Yeah, not thinking about it as a competition, thinking about it as synergy. Thank you so much for all of that. I recognize we're a little tight on time here. Before going to some of the questions online, I just wanted to open up if we have one or two questions for any of the panelists, or broader, please feel free to come up to one of the mics there, or maybe someone can get a mic to the audience. But before running to these, just wanted to bring up. Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, my question is to Mr. Shah. Can you give the efficiency comparison between ground-mounted solar PV and the floated PV project? And second question is, can you give the successful example of actual floating solar PV anywhere in the Asia-Pacific region? Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for the question. I think it's a favorite question for me. In comparison of if we say energy yield, so floating PV projects give at least 5 to 8% better energy yield from the ground-mounted projects. But it all depends upon how well the engineering and design is done for that project. So there are projects, floating PV projects, which give even lesser yield than the ground-mounted projects because they were not I mean, there are ways in which we do select the site. There are 3-4 ways to select the site. If those steps and those approaches not considered, the project, I mean, sorry for the project then. Yeah, and in terms of the experience, the successful examples, so total about 5 gigawatt plus of projects have been installed globally, floating PV projects, and 70% of them are in APAC region. In terms of our experience, AFRI has done owner's engineering for Thailand's largest floating PV project in utility waters. So it's not necessary that you have to have a project in a hydro reservoir or any other place. So wherever there is a water body, it can be assessed properly, and if there is a potential, a floating PV project can be installed. So a 90 megawatt project in Thailand. We have also were the lenders technical advisors for ADB for Southeast Asia's first floating PV project in Vietnam. It was 47 megawatt project. It's running at Da Nang near, yeah. And also there has been several projects in Malaysia being installed. And in Thailand also, there are many projects. And here in Philippines, there are 100, I think, there is one project with more than 500 megawatt also floating PV project. So yeah, there are many examples. Yes, most of them, I would say. There are a few examples. I think there is one project, I think probably in Indonesia, where they are checking the operability at the moment. But yeah, I think they're so far going well.
Thank you for that. I recognize we're a little tight on time now. I saw there was a few questions online, 3 of which were for you, Janitha, for waste to energy. If you're comfortable answering those online or connecting with the person who asked those. Some of them were about the fly traps, and some of them were actually about the financing. But hopefully you can have a good dialogue after. I just want to kind of give some closing thoughts on this, and really just once again thank our incredible speakers and panelists for their diverse backgrounds, and recognizing that we're talking about sufficiency and security. It really requires diversification. I think we've shown that in a huge way. I think with the operational technology that we have, we're now talking about what is the enabling environment and what does financing look like. That these technologies exist, they're feasible. It's just how can we really address the cost competitiveness. And lastly is that there's tons of value beyond just the grid in other sectors, in the environment, and so many things that we need to figure out how we can not only quantify, but also integrate into lending operations and considerations around that. So with that in mind, I was also told to mention that there will be a post-plenary session in the staff hub, beginning, I guess, just around now. So I encourage all of you to go and please interact and ask all of the remaining questions you have to our amazing speakers, and just give them one last round of applause. Thank you so much for your time.